The merger proposal slid across the mahogany conference table with the satisfying whisper of expensive paper against polished wood. August 10th, 2024. Another deal closed. Another victory in the books. The executives across from me nodded with the practiced enthusiasm of people who just saved their company from bankruptcy, though they'd never admit it in those terms. "Gentlemen, I think we have ourselves an agreement," I said, extending my hand to their CEO. The handshake was firm, confident, the kind that seals eight-figure deals in downtown Chicago's Loop District. My phone buzzed. Sarah's name lit up the screen with a text. "Wrapping up my wellness webinar. Dinner at 7? The twins have news." I smiled genuinely for the first time that day. After 15 years of marriage, Sarah still had that effect on me. Her wellness coaching business, Vital Flow Wellness, had taken off beyond our wildest dreams. She'd built a loyal following of North Shore suburbanites who hung on every word of her nutrition and yoga wisdom. The drive home to our lakeside house in Winnetka took 45 minutes through typical Chicago traffic. I used the time to decompress, letting the stress of corporate warfare fade as familiar neighborhoods rolled past my Mercedes. Our driveway curved elegantly toward a house that screamed success. Not ostentatiously, but with the quiet confidence of people who'd made it. Sarah was still in our kitchen when I walked in, her ring light casting that perfect glow she'd mastered for her online sessions. She was wrapping up what looked like a nutrition consultation, her voice warm and encouraging as she spoke to the camera. "Remember, wellness isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Small steps, big changes. I'll see you all next week." She ended the session and turned to me with that radiant smile that had hooked me at a networking mixer back in 2009. God, had it really been that long? I remembered asking her out that night with the kind of bold confidence that only comes from 3 drinks, and the certainty that you'd regret not trying more than you'd regret failing. "How did the merger go?" she asked, stretching up to kiss me. Her lips tasted like the green smoothie she'd been sipping. "Signed, sealed, delivered. Another satisfied client." I loosened my tie, already shifting from corporate shark to family man. "Where are the kids?" "Upstairs, probably bursting with excitement. They have something to tell you." Alex and Jordan came thundering down the stairs before I could even call for them. At 12, they were becoming more like small adults every day, all legs and enthusiasm and that peculiar confidence that comes from being good at something. "Dad, we won regionals!" Jordan practically shouted, waving a trophy that was nearly as tall as her torso. "The whole team's going to state," Alex added, bouncing on his toes. "Coach says we have a real shot this year." I felt that familiar surge of pride. These kids were special, not because they were mine, but because they genuinely were. Sarah had done an amazing job raising them while I was traveling for work, and they'd grown into the kind of kids other parents envied. "This calls for celebration," I announced. "Get cleaned up. We're going to Alinia's little sister restaurant downtown." Sarah's eyes widened. "Theo, that place is impossible to get into." I pulled out my phone and dialed. "Marcus, it's Theo Rodriguez. I know it's last minute, but..." 3 minutes of conversation later, we had a table for 4 at 8 o'clock. "Deals demand leverage," I said with a wink, "and knowing the right people doesn't hurt." Dinner was perfect. The kids chattered about soccer strategy while Sarah and I shared knowing looks across the table. This was our life, successful, balanced, enviable. I raised my glass of wine for a toast. "To the Rodriguez family. We've engineered perfection. No loose ends, no regrets." Sarah's smile flickered for just a moment, but I was too caught up in the moment to notice. The next week blurred past in its usual rhythm. Monday found me on a plane to New York, schmoozing clients in Manhattan, steakhouses, and dissecting acquisition data until the early morning hours. It wasn't glamorous, but the corporate consulting game had been very good to us. Meanwhile, Sarah was building her empire one sunrise boot camp at a time. Our gym, Elite Fitness on the North Shore, had become her second home. She'd cultivated a following of devoted clients who treated her like a fitness guru. I admired her dedication, even if I sometimes worried she was pushing herself too hard. Solo workout logged, 7:30 p.m. Her fitness app pinged on my phone Thursday evening. We shared location data, a practical choice for a family with two busy careers and active kids. I glanced at it while reviewing quarterly projections and smiled. Sarah's commitment to staying in shape was just another thing to love about her. Friday morning, she was already gone when I woke up, leading her 6 a.m. boot camp class. I made coffee and breakfast for the twins, enjoying these quiet moments before the weekend chaos kicked in. "Dad, is Mom okay?" Alex asked over his cereal. "She seemed kind of stressed yesterday." "Kids notice everything." "She's just busy with work, buddy. Her business is really taking off." "She's always at the gym," Jordan added. "Like, always." "That's her job, kiddo. Just like Dad travels for his job." But their observations stuck with me. When Sarah came home that evening, glowing from whatever workout she'd just finished, I pulled her into the kitchen. "The kids think you're stressed," I said, sliding my arms around her waist. "Everything okay?" Her body tensed for a moment before she relaxed into me. "Just the usual growing pains. When you're building something from scratch." She trailed off, then looked up at me with those green eyes that could still make me forget my own name. "I've missed you this week." "I'm right here," I murmured against her neck, breathing in her scent, some combination of expensive shampoo and that light sweat that came from constant physical activity. "Not just physically," she said, her hands sliding up my chest to loosen my tie. "It's been too long since it was just us." The tie hit the floor, followed by my shirt. Sarah had always been direct about what she wanted, one of the things that had drawn me to her initially. Tonight, she wanted me to remember why we worked together, and I was more than happy to oblige. Later, wrapped around each other in our king-size bed, I felt that familiar contentment. This was what we'd built together: passion, success, family, the perfect life. Saturday morning meant golf with Mark Patterson, my college roommate and best man at our wedding. We'd maintained our friendship through all the usual life changes: marriages, kids, career shifts. Mark had parlayed his business degree into a successful real estate brokerage, and we'd made a tradition of monthly golf games where we could catch up without wives and kids demanding attention. The Chicago suburbs were gorgeous in late August, all green lawns and perfect landscaping. Willow Creek Country Club was exactly the kind of place where deals got made over 18 holes and expensive scotch. "You look good, man," Mark said as we loaded our clubs into the cart. "Marriage and fatherhood agree with you." "Can't complain. Sarah's business is exploding. The kids are crushing it in soccer, and my latest client just cleared $10 million in added value." I selected my driver and took a practice swing. "Speaking of Sarah's business, she mentioned you might be interested in some referrals." Mark's expression shifted slightly. "Yeah, maybe. The wellness crowd has money to spend on real estate." We fell into our usual rhythm, competitive but friendly, with enough trash talk to keep things interesting. Mark had always been the more social one in college, the guy who could work a party like a politician. I'd been the strategist, the one who planned our elaborate pranks and made sure we never got caught. "Remember that time we convinced the dean's assistant that there was a swimming pool on the roof of the library?" Mark laughed as he lined up a putt. "Your idea, my execution. That poor girl spent an hour looking for the elevator to the pool deck." "Good times." His smile faded slightly. "Sometimes I miss how simple everything was back then." "Simple doesn't pay for country club memberships," I reminded him, sinking a birdie putt. "Besides, we're living the dream now. Beautiful wives, great kids, successful careers. What more could we want?" "Yeah," Mark said quietly. "Living the dream." After golf, we headed to O'Malley's, a dark sports bar that served the kind of greasy food our wives would never approve of. It was our ritual, 18 holes followed by beer and wings while we solved the world's problems. "So, how are things with you and Kelly?" I asked, demolishing a buffalo wing. "Good. Really good. She's talking about trying for another kid." "That's great, man. Jordan and Alex would love another cousin to boss around." We ordered another round, then another. Mark seemed unusually subdued, picking at his food and avoiding eye contact. I'd known him for over 20 years. Something was eating at him. "Spit it out," I finally said. "What's bothering you?" Mark's beer stopped halfway to his mouth. "What do you mean?" "You've been weird all day. Quiet, distracted. This isn't like you." He set his beer down and stared at the label, peeling it with nervous fingers. "Sometimes I think we should have stayed in touch better. After college, I mean. Maybe things would be different. We golf every month, talk all the time. Hell, you're Alex and Jordan's godfather. What are you talking about?" "I mean, really stayed in touch. Been there for each other. Had each other's backs." A cold feeling started in my stomach. "Mark, what's going on?" He looked up at me finally, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Genuine anguish. "I can't hold this anymore, man. It's killing me." The bar suddenly felt too loud, too bright, too small. "Hold what?" "I saw Sarah with someone at the gym's holiday party last December. They were..." He swallowed hard. "They were together, Theo. Not just talking. Really together." The words hit me like a physical blow. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what he just said. "You're wrong." I wish I was. God, I wish I was wrong about this. "Who?" The word came out as a whisper. "Ryan Mitchell. That trainer from Elite Fitness. The guy who's always posting those motivational garbage posts on LinkedIn. Ryan. I knew him by sight. Tall, muscular, the kind of guy who made a career out of being genetically gifted and calling it expertise. Sarah had mentioned him a few times, always in the context of gym business. Professional networking. "You're mistaken," I said. But even as the words left my mouth, I was thinking about Sarah's late workouts, her app logging solo sessions at odd hours, her increased energy and focus over the past months. "I saw them, Theo, in the parking lot after the party. She was in his car and they were..." He made a helpless gesture. "Look, I wanted to tell you right away, but then I thought maybe it was just a mistake, a one-time thing. Maybe they were just talking about business. But I've been watching since then. The timing, the locations her app shows for those solo workouts. Some of them are motels, man. Budget places off the highway where nobody you know would ever go." I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and opened Sarah's fitness app. We'd connected our accounts years ago for safety reasons. If something happened during a solo workout, we'd be able to find each other. Now I scrolled through months of data with new eyes. December 15th. Solo session, 8 p.m. Location showing a Motel 6 near the gym. January 22nd. Solo session, 7:30 p.m. Same location. February 8th. Different motel, same time frame. The pattern was there, clear as daylight, once you knew to look for it. Twice a month, sometimes 3 times. Always evening sessions. Always at locations that made no sense for actual workouts. "How long have you known?" I asked. 8 months. Since the party. 8 months. I felt something cold and hard settling in my chest. "You've known my wife was sleeping with someone else for 8 months, and you're just telling me now?" I kept hoping I was wrong, or that it would end on its own. I didn't want to destroy your marriage if it was just some stupid mistake. "So you thought what? That keeping me in the dark was better? That I didn't deserve to know my wife was making a fool of me?" Mark reached across the table. "Theo, man, I'm sorry. I know I should have..." I stood up so fast my chair fell over. The bar went quiet for a moment before conversations resumed. You're dead to me. What? You heard me. We're done. 15 years of friendship and this is how it ends. You chose her over me. You chose protecting her feelings over protecting your best friend. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. I threw $40 on the table and headed for the door. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't come to my house. We're finished. The drive home was a blur of rage and calculations. My mind kept switching between emotional devastation and cold strategic analysis. The part of me that had survived hostile corporate takeovers was already forming a plan, while the part that loved my wife and trusted my best friend was screaming in agony. Sarah was in the kitchen when I got home, preparing some kind of quinoa salad for tomorrow's meal prep. She looked up with a smile that now seemed calculating, false. How was golf? You're back earlier than usual. Mark had to cut it short. The lie came easily. Family stuff. Oh, that's too bad. How did you play? Won, as usual. I kissed her cheek, tasting the familiar flavor of her lip balm. 8 months. 8 months of this. I'm going to shower. In our bedroom, I pulled up Sarah's fitness app again and cross-referenced it with my own calendar. Every solo workout coincided with my business trips or late client dinners. She'd been planning this, scheduling her betrayal around my absence like it was just another appointment. The shower ran cold over my shoulders as I stood there processing the magnitude of what I'd discovered. 15 years of marriage, 2 children, a life built on what I'd thought was mutual love and respect. All of it contaminated by 8 months of lies and sneaking around with some muscle-bound trainer who probably saw her as another conquest. But the rage was crystallizing into something more useful. Determination. Sarah had played me for a fool, and Mark had helped her do it. They'd both bet that I'd never find out, or that I'd be too devastated to fight back effectively if I did. They were wrong. I turned off the water and reached for my towel, my mind already working through the possibilities. I wasn't going to confront Sarah tonight, or tomorrow, or even next week. That would be emotional, messy, reactive, exactly what she'd expect from a devastated husband. Instead, I was going to treat this like the hostile takeover it was. I was going to gather information, build leverage, and then systematically destroy everyone who'd betrayed me. Sarah wanted to play games with my life? Fine. But she was about to learn that she'd chosen the wrong opponent. Deals demanded leverage, and I was about to collect more than she'd ever imagined. The next morning arrived with the false normalcy of a typical Sunday. Sarah was already up, blending one of her trademark protein smoothies in the kitchen. The twins were sprawled on the living room floor, absorbed in some soccer highlights on YouTube. Everything looked exactly the same as it had 24 hours ago, except now I saw it all through a different lens. Sleep okay? Sarah asked without looking up from her blender. You were tossing and turning. Just thinking about a new client proposal. The lie felt strange in my mouth, the first of what I knew would be many. Nothing I can't handle. She gave me that supportive smile I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. My brilliant husband, always working. The twins want to hit the driving range this afternoon. Family time? Sounds perfect. And it did sound perfect, which was the cruelest part. We still functioned as a family unit, still had our rhythms and traditions. Sarah could compartmentalize her betrayal so completely that she could plan family activities while scheduling her next rendezvous with Ryan. But I could compartmentalize too. While she drove the kids to soccer practice, I sat in my home office and opened a private browser session. Time to start building my case. Sarah's fitness app was just the beginning. I cross-referenced her solo workouts with Ryan Mitchell's social media presence and found a troubling pattern. His Instagram posts about amazing training sessions and breakthrough client progress aligned almost perfectly with her mysterious evening appointments. December 16th. Sarah's app showed a solo session at 8 p.m. Ryan's Instagram. Incredible evening workout with a dedicated client. breaking barriers. Personal training are breakthrough moments. The hashtag made my stomach turn. Breakthrough moments. Right? I dug deeper into Ryan's background. The guy was 32, divorced, no kids. He'd been at Elite Fitness for 3 years, and his LinkedIn profile was exactly what you'd expect. Motivational quotes about crushing goals and living your best life, alongside shirtless workout photos that bordered on inappropriate for a professional platform. But it was his Twitter history that really caught my attention. Scattered among the fitness tips and protein shake recommendations were subtle brags about his client relationships that went beyond the gym. Nothing explicit enough to be actionable, but plenty suggestive enough to paint a picture of someone who saw his position as a way to access wealthy, bored housewives. "Daddy, you okay?" Jordan appeared in my doorway, still in her soccer cleats. "You look angry." I minimized the browser windows and forced a smile. "Just work stuff, sweetheart. Nothing you need to worry about. How was practice?" "Good. Coach says I'm ready for the state tournament. Are you going to come watch?" "Wouldn't miss it for the world." That much was true. Whatever happened with Sarah, I wasn't going to let it affect my relationship with the kids. They deserved better than that. That evening, while Sarah did her Sunday meal prep, I reviewed the evidence I'd gathered so far. It was circumstantial but compelling, certainly enough to justify taking the next step. Monday morning, I called in a favor. Victor Castellanos had been my mentor when I first started in consulting, and he'd since moved on to white-collar criminal defense law. More importantly, he'd been through his own ugly divorce 5 years earlier and come out the other side with his reputation and finances intact. "Theo, this is unexpected. What can I do for you?" "I need advice, personal advice. Are you free for lunch today?" "That's serious, huh?" "Sure. Morton's at 12:30? Morton's was a classic power lunch spot in downtown Chicago, the kind of place where million-dollar deals were discussed over dry-aged steaks. Victor was already waiting when I arrived, looking every inch the successful attorney in his custom suit and $100 haircut. "You look like hell," he said by way of greeting. "What's going on?" I laid out the situation in broad strokes, the suspicious patterns, Mark's revelation, the evidence I'd compiled. Victor listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious with each detail. "How sure are you about this?" he asked finally. "Sure enough to risk my marriage on it. If I'm wrong, Sarah will never forgive me for investigating her. If I'm right, if you're right, she's already destroyed your marriage and you just don't know it yet." Victor cut into his steak with surgical precision. "What do you want to do about it?" "I want to be prepared. I want to know my options before I make any moves." Smart. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, which means adultery doesn't directly affect the divorce proceedings. But there are ways it can matter. If marital assets were used to support the affair, for instance, or if she's been hiding income. What about custody? Affairs don't typically impact custody decisions unless they somehow endangered the children. But the fact that she's been systematically deceiving you for months could be relevant to her character assessment. Victor pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts. "I'm going to put you in touch with someone. Patricia Huang, forensic accountant. If your wife has been hiding money or using marital assets inappropriately, Patricia will find it." "Is that necessary? I handle our finances." "You handle the finances you know about. If Sarah's been planning this affair for 8 months, she might have been planning other things too. Trust me. In situations like this, people often surprise you with how calculating they can be." That phrase stuck with me as I drove home. How calculating they can be. It was exactly how I'd been thinking about Sarah since Saturday night. Not as the woman I'd loved for 15 years, but as an opponent who'd been systematically undermining everything we'd built together. The truth was, I'd been calculating too. Every conversation, every interaction was now filtered through my new knowledge. When Sarah asked about my day over dinner, I found myself weighing my response, revealing nothing that might tip her off to what I'd discovered. "How was work?" she asked, serving the twins their carefully portioned organic chicken and vegetables. "Productive. Looks like the New York client wants to expand the engagement. I might need to spend more time there over the next few weeks." "Oh." Something flickered across her face. Disappointment? Or was I imagining relief? "That's great for business." "It is." I watched her carefully. "I'll try to give you advance notice when I can. I know it's hard when I'm traveling." "We manage," she said lightly. "The kids and I have our routines." "I'll bet you do," I thought. "Speaking of routines, I noticed your workout schedule has been pretty intense lately. All those evening sessions." "You know me, I'm dedicated." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Plus, some clients prefer evening appointments. Working professionals who can't get away during the day?" "Right, makes sense." I stabbed a piece of chicken with more force than necessary. "What kind of training are you doing in those sessions anyway?" "Oh, functional movement, resistance training. Pretty standard stuff." Her hand fluttered to her throat, a tell I'd noticed years ago when she was uncomfortable. "Nothing too exciting." The casual lie hit me like a slap. She was sitting at our dinner table, helping our children with their homework, planning their activities for the week, all while maintaining a fiction about her evening activities that we both now knew was false. After the kids went to bed, I found Sarah in our bathroom, applying the expensive night cream she'd started using recently. Her skincare routine had become more elaborate over the past year. New products, professional treatments, subtle changes that I'd attributed to her growing success in the wellness industry. Now I wondered if those changes had a different motivation. "Sarah," I said, leaning against the doorframe, "do you ever think about what we've built together? This life, this family?" She paused in her routine and looked at me in the mirror. "Of course." "Why?" "Sometimes I think we take it for granted. How good we have it. How much trust it takes to build something like this." "Trust is everything," she agreed softly. "It's the foundation of any relationship." The irony was so thick I nearly choked on it. "Absolutely. Without trust, what do you have? Just two people pretending to be something they're not." "Theo, are you okay? You've been strange since Saturday night." "Just appreciating what we have while we have it." I kissed her forehead, breathing in her familiar scent. You never know when things might change. That night, I lay awake listening to Sarah's breathing and planning my next moves. Patricia Huang, Victor's forensic accountant, had agreed to meet with me later in the week. I'd also reached out to a private investigator through another professional contact, someone discreet who specialized in matrimonial cases. But first, I needed more direct evidence. The app data and social media correlation were suggestive, but I needed something concrete. Something that would stand up in court if it came to that. Which meant I needed to see this affair for myself. Tuesday evening, Sarah announced she had a late client session. 7:30 at the gym, she said, checking her phone. Probably won't be home until 9:30 or 10. No problem. I'll handle bedtime. I kissed her cheek and watched her gather her gym bag. Drive safe. 20 minutes after she left, I dropped the kids off at my sister Maria's house for an impromptu sleepover. Work emergency, I explained. I need to put in some hours tonight. Maria had always been protective of me, the older sister who'd helped me navigate college applications and first jobs. She took one look at my face and nodded without questions. Take as much time as you need. The kids love staying here. Elite Fitness was a sprawling complex on the North Shore, all glass and chrome and inspirational quotes painted on exposed brick walls. I parked across the street with a clear view of the entrance and settled in to wait. Sarah's BMW arrived at exactly 7:30. She sat in the car for a few minutes, checking her phone, before heading inside. Her body language was different than usual. More energy, more anticipation. the way someone moves when they're excited about what's coming next. 10 minutes later, Ryan's truck pulled into the lot. I watched him swagger through the entrance with the confidence of a man who thought he was untouchable. For the next hour, I sat in my car and processed what I'd seen. This wasn't some random impulse or moment of weakness. This was a planned, regular appointment. Sarah had lied to my face about her evening plans, lied to our children about where she was going, and then driven directly to a rendezvous with her lover. At 9 o'clock, they emerged together. Even from a distance, I could see the casual intimacy between them. The way Ryan's hand touched her lower back, the way Sarah leaned into him as they walked. They stopped by her car for several minutes of conversation that involved entirely too much touching for a professional relationship. Then Ryan kissed her, not a quick peck or friendly goodbye. A real kiss, passionate and familiar. The kiss of two people who knew each other's bodies intimately. I gripped my steering wheel until my knuckles went white, watching my wife embrace another man in a parking lot, like some teenager sneaking around behind her parents' back. 15 years of marriage, reduced to this sordid tableau. When they finally separated, Sarah drove off in one direction while Ryan headed in another. I waited until both cars were out of sight before starting my engine. I'd seen enough for tonight. At home, I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat in my home office, staring at my computer screen without really seeing it. The evidence was no longer circumstantial. My wife was having an affair with her trainer, and she was doing it with the kind of calculated planning that suggested this wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Running late. Client had some personal issues to work through. Home by 10:30. Love you. Another lie. Another casual, thoughtless deception from the woman who'd promised to love and honor me until death do us part. I typed back, "No worries, take your time, I'll wait up for you." But I wouldn't be waiting up out of affection or concern. I'd be waiting to see how smoothly she could transition from her lover's arms to our marriage bed, how easily she could slip back into the role of devoted wife and mother. Because if there was one thing I'd learned in 15 years of corporate consulting, it was that people were capable of far more deception than they ever imagined. I'd seen executives embezzle millions while coaching their kids' little league teams, seen married partners conduct affairs for years while maintaining picture-perfect family facades. Sarah was no different. She'd just picked the wrong husband to deceive. When she finally came home at 10:45, I was waiting in our bedroom, laptop open, pretending to review client files. She moved through her nighttime routine with practiced normalcy, hanging up her workout clothes, washing her face, applying that expensive night cream. "How did it go?" I asked without looking up from my screen. "Good session. She's making real progress with her nutrition goals." Sarah slipped into bed beside me, her skin still carrying the faint scent of the gym. Or maybe that was Ryan's cologne. "Sorry I'm so late." "No problem. I know you take your clients seriously." "I do. It's important to give them the attention they deserve." I closed my laptop and turned off the bedside lamp. In the darkness, Sarah curled against me with the same familiar movements she'd been making for 15 years. Her breathing gradually evened out, and within minutes, she was asleep. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling and planning my next moves. Sarah thought she was playing a game where I didn't even know the rules. She was about to discover that I'd been studying the playbook all along. The meeting with Patricia Huang took place Thursday morning at her downtown office, a sterile space filled with computer monitors and filing cabinets. Patricia was a small, intense woman in her 50s who spoke about financial forensics, the way surgeons discussed operations, with clinical precision and absolute confidence. "Your wife's business is interesting," she said, spreading printouts across her conference table. "Vital Flow Wellness has been quite successful over the past year." "That's good news, right?" "Depends on your perspective. The income growth is impressive, but the expense patterns are unusual." She pointed to a series of highlighted figures. Substantial cash payments to Ryan Mitchell's LLC for what's listed as consulting services and specialized training protocols. How substantial? Nearly $15,000 over the past 6 months, all categorized as business expenses, which means they're being written off as tax deductions. My vision went slightly red around the edges. She's paying him with our money. Marital assets, technically. Money earned during the marriage is considered jointly owned under Illinois law, regardless of whose name is on the account. Patricia's expression was sympathetic but professional. There's more. Some of these payments coincide with hotel charges that aren't associated with any business travel or client meetings. She showed me credit card statements I'd never seen, a business account Sarah had opened without telling me. Charges at budget motels, expensive restaurants, even a weekend at a boutique hotel in Wisconsin that had been billed as a wellness retreat. How long has this been going on? Based on the financial records, at least 10 months. Maybe longer if they were more careful in the beginning. 10 months. Not 8, like Mark had said. 10 months of systematic deception, of using our money to fund her affair while sitting across from me at dinner every night and discussing our retirement plans. What are my options? Illinois recognizes a concept called dissipation of marital assets, Patricia explained. If one spouse uses marital property for non-marital purposes, like funding an affair, the court can award a greater share of the remaining assets to the innocent spouse. These financial records would be excellent evidence of dissipation. What about criminal charges? Fraud? Embezzlement? Unlikely. The money came from accounts she had legitimate access to, even if she used it inappropriately. This is a civil matter, not criminal. I left Patricia's office with copies of everything she'd uncovered, my head spinning with the scope of Sarah's deception. This wasn't just an affair. It was theft, betrayal, and fraud all wrapped up in a package I'd been living with for nearly a year without knowing it. That evening, I met with James Sullivan, the private investigator Victor had recommended. Sullivan was a former Chicago police detective who'd transitioned to private work, and his office reflected his law enforcement background. Sparse, functional, focused on results rather than appearances. "Your wife is careful," he said, after reviewing my file. "Regular patterns, always the same locations, always when you're out of town. She's been planning this." "Can you get photographs, video?" "Absolutely. But let me ask you something first. What's your end game here? Are you looking to save your marriage or end it?" The question caught me off guard. For the past week, I'd been so focused on gathering evidence and building my case that I hadn't really considered what I wanted the ultimate outcome to be. "I want her to pay for what she's done," I said finally. "I want everyone who betrayed me to face consequences." Sullivan nodded. "Then we'll get you what you need. Fair warning, though. Once you see the photos, there's no going back. You can't unknow what you know." "I already can't unknow it. I just want proof that will hold up in court." "Give me 2 weeks?" That night, I sat in my home office and made a list of everyone who'd played a role in this betrayal. Sarah, obviously. Ryan, her accomplice and co-conspirator. Mark, who'd known for months and said nothing. They'd all made calculations about my marriage, my family, my life. They'd all decided I was acceptable collateral damage in their various schemes. Sarah wanted her excitement and validation. Ryan wanted easy money and access to wealthy women. Mark wanted to avoid conflict, even at the cost of his best friend's well-being. Fine. But now it was my turn to make calculations. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through Ryan's social media profiles one more time. His Instagram showed a carefully curated lifestyle of expensive workouts and motivational quotes, but his business registration told a different story. His LLC was new, poorly organized, and showed signs of the kind of casual financial management that would crumble under serious scrutiny. A few phone calls to former colleagues in corporate investigations revealed that Ryan had been the subject of sexual harassment complaints at his previous gym. Nothing criminal, nothing that had resulted in charges, but enough to establish a pattern of inappropriate relationships with female clients. Mark's real estate brokerage was more established but equally vulnerable. His success depended on reputation and referrals, and any hint of ethical problems would devastate his business in the tight-knit North Shore market. And Sarah? Sarah's wellness coaching business was built on trust and personal relationships. Her clients saw her as a role model, someone whose life was worth emulating. What would they think if they knew she was funding her affair with business profits while preaching about integrity and self-improvement? I spent the next hour researching Illinois laws on business fraud, professional licensing requirements for wellness coaches, and the tax implications of using business accounts for personal expenses. By the time I closed my laptop, I had the outline of a strategy that would systematically dismantle every aspect of their lives, just as they dismantled mine. The difference was, my attack would be legal, methodical, and absolutely devastating. Friday afternoon, my phone rang. James Sullivan. "I've got what you need," he said without preamble. "Your wife and Mr. Mitchell have been busy this week." "How busy?" "Tuesday night at the Marriott off Route 94. Wednesday evening at his apartment. Today they met for lunch at a restaurant in Evanston, and let's just say the conversation got very physical very quickly." My throat went dry. "You have photos?" "Photos, video, audio from their lunch conversation. Everything admissible in court." "What did they talk about?" "Your wife is getting nervous. She thinks you might be suspicious. Mitchell is pushing her to leave you. Says he's tired of sneaking around." "What did she say?" "She told him to be patient. Said she needs more time to figure out how to protect her assets in a divorce. She's already been talking to lawyers, Theo." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. While I'd been wrestling with the decision of whether to save my marriage or end it, Sarah had already been planning our divorce. She was just trying to figure out how to maximize her financial position before dropping the bomb. "There's something else," Sullivan continued. "She's pregnant." The world tilted sideways. "What?" "About 6 weeks along, based on what I overheard. She told Mitchell yesterday. They were discussing whether the baby was yours or his." I dropped into my desk chair, struggling to process this new information. Pregnant. 6 weeks along, which meant conception in early July. I tried to remember our intimate moments from that time period, but everything was blurring together. "What's the timing look like?" I managed to ask. "Could go either way, honestly. You were in town that week, but so was he. She's planning to get a paternity test after the birth." Another calculation, another layer of deception. Sarah had been sleeping with both of us, probably hoping the baby would be mine so she could pass it off without complications. But she'd told Ryan about her pregnancy first, discussed paternity with him before even confirming the pregnancy with me. "I need those photos," I said. "I'll have everything to you by tomorrow morning. Photo packages, video files, audio transcripts, everything you need to destroy these people." That evening, I watched Sarah move through our dinner routine with new eyes. She seemed slightly different. A glow I'd attributed to her fitness regimen, a tenderness around her midsection that I'd assumed was just the result of her latest core workout routine. "You seem happy," I observed as she served the twins their dessert. "Good day?" "Very good. I think Vital Flow is really starting to take off. I might need to hire some additional trainers soon." I'd bet she already had someone in mind for that position. That's exciting. Growth is always good. I sipped my wine, noting that Sarah was drinking water instead of her usual glass of white. "Any candidates for the position?" "A few. Ryan Mitchell has some ideas about expanding the program. He's very knowledgeable about fitness trends." "I'm sure he is," I thought. "Ryan's the trainer from Elite Fitness, right? The one with the motivational Instagram posts?" "You follow him on Instagram?" "LinkedIn, actually. Some of his posts came up in my feed. Very inspiring stuff about breakthrough moments and living your best life. Sarah's fork paused halfway to her mouth. He's passionate about his work. I can see that. All that talk about deep, meaningful relationships with clients. Very professional. He takes a holistic approach to fitness, mind, body, and spirit. How modern. I should meet him sometime, maybe get a consultation. Oh, I don't think that's necessary. You're already in great shape. Still, it might be fun. Couples training sessions? Could be a nice way to spend time together. The color drained from Sarah's face. I don't think he does couples work. Shame. Maybe I'll just stop by the gym sometime and introduce myself. Always good to meet the people my wife works with. Theo, really, there's no need. Dad, can you help me with my math homework? Jordan interrupted, unknowingly saving Sarah from having to continue her increasingly desperate deflections. Of course, sweetheart. I stood up and kissed Sarah's forehead. We can finish talking about this later. But we wouldn't finish talking about it later, because Sarah would spend the rest of the evening avoiding any topic that might lead back to Ryan Mitchell. She'd go to bed early, claiming fatigue, and I'd let her because I was done gathering intelligence for now. Tomorrow, Sullivan would deliver the evidence that would change everything. Next week, I'd begin implementing the strategy that would systematically destroy the lives of everyone who'd betrayed me. Tonight, I'd enjoy my last evening as a naive husband, watching my wife pretend to be someone she'd never actually been. Saturday morning brought James Sullivan's evidence package, a thick manila envelope containing photographs, printed transcripts, and a USB drive with video files. I locked myself in my home office and opened it with the grim determination of a coroner conducting an autopsy. The photographs were devastating in their clarity. Sarah and Ryan entering the Marriott together. Sarah and Ryan kissing in his truck. Sarah and Ryan tangled together on his couch, visible through his apartment window. But it was the transcripts from their lunch conversation that truly revealed the scope of their betrayal. Ryan, I'm tired of this sneaking around. When are you going to tell him? Sarah, it's not that simple. Theo's not stupid. He's going to want to fight the divorce. I need to be strategic about this. Ryan, strategic how? Sarah, my lawyer says if I can prove he's been emotionally unavailable or if I can show that his traveling damaged our relationship, I might be able to get more in the settlement. Plus, with the baby coming, Ryan, what if it's his? Sarah, then we'll deal with it. But if it's yours, that changes everything. Theo would never fight for custody of a child that wasn't his. Ryan, and you're okay with that? Lying about paternity? Sarah, I'm okay with protecting my future. Our future. I read the transcript 3 times, each pass making me more furious. Sarah wasn't just having an affair. She was planning to use it as leverage in our divorce. She was willing to lie about paternity if it served her financial interests. She was treating our 15-year marriage like a hostile takeover, calculating how to extract maximum value while leaving me with nothing. The irony was bitter. She'd learned from watching me negotiate deals over the years, and now she was using those same tactics against me. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd assumed I wouldn't discover her plan until she was ready to execute it. My phone rang. Victor Castellanos. Patricia called me, he said without preamble. She says you've got financial evidence of asset dissipation. How solid is it? Rock solid. Nearly $15,000 in payments to her lover's LLC, plus hotel charges and restaurant bills, all funded through marital assets. That's excellent news. With that kind of documentation, you'll be in a very strong position. There's more. She's pregnant, and she's not sure who the father is. I have recorded conversations where she discusses lying about paternity if it serves her interests. Victor was quiet for a moment. That changes things. Paternity fraud is a serious matter, and the recordings would be admissible evidence of her character. What's my next move? We accelerate everything. If she's already talking to lawyers, she's planning to file soon. We need to get ahead of that. How? You file first. Surprise divorce petition, emergency motions to freeze assets, and establish temporary custody. We hit her before she knows what's happening. The strategy made sense from a tactical standpoint, but it felt surreal to be discussing the end of my marriage like a military operation. How long do we have? I can have papers ready by Tuesday. We'll serve her on Wednesday while she's at the gym. Public place, lots of witnesses, maximum shock value. And the baby? We'll demand a paternity test as part of the proceedings. If it's yours, we'll deal with that. If it's not, it actually strengthens your case for emotional distress damages. After hanging up with Victor, I sat in my office and stared at the photographs spread across my desk. There was Sarah, the woman I'd built a life with, locked in an embrace with another man. There was Ryan, swagger and confidence evident even in still photos. There was the physical evidence of a betrayal that had been planned, funded, and executed with the kind of precision I'd once admired in Sarah's business ventures. The anger was still there, burning steady and cold. But underneath it was something else, a strange sense of relief. For weeks, I'd been questioning my own instincts, wondering if I was being paranoid or overly suspicious. Now I knew that my instincts had been correct. I wasn't losing my mind. I was responding appropriately to a real threat. The question now was how comprehensive my response should be. I pulled out my laptop and began researching Ryan Mitchell's business registration more thoroughly. His LLC had been formed 8 months ago, right around the time Mark first spotted him with Sarah. The business address was a post office box, and the registered agent was a cheap online service that specialized in helping people avoid personal liability. Amateur hour. I made a few calls to contacts in the Illinois Department of Revenue and learned that Ryan's business license was already under review for incomplete filings. A simple anonymous tip about unreported cash income would trigger a full audit, the kind that could shut down a small operation like his overnight. Mark's real estate business was more complex, but it had its own vulnerabilities. His broker's license required continuing education credits, and his marketing materials made claims about his sales volume that seemed inflated. A complaint to the Illinois Department of Professional Regulation would trigger an investigation that could drag on for months, damaging his reputation even if it ultimately cleared him. And Sarah? Sarah's wellness coaching business depended entirely on her personal brand. She wasn't licensed as a nutritionist or personal trainer, but her marketing materials suggested expertise in areas that required certification. A few strategic social media posts from anonymous accounts could start rumors that would spread through the North Shore gossip network like wildfire. I wasn't just going to destroy their relationship. I was going to systematically dismantle every aspect of their lives, the same way they dismantled mine. Sunday dinner was a quiet affair. The twins talked about school and soccer, while Sarah picked at her food and avoided making eye contact with me. She seemed distracted, checking her phone more frequently than usual. "Everything okay?" I asked, as she pushed her untouched salad around her plate. "Just tired. It's been a long week." "Maybe you should take Monday off. Rest up." "I can't. I have 3 client sessions scheduled." "With Ryan?" She looked up sharply. "Why would you ask that?" "You mentioned he might be interested in joining your team. I figured you'd want to discuss the details." "Oh, right." She relaxed slightly. "Yes, we have a consultation scheduled." Another lie, delivered with the casual ease of someone who'd had months of practice. I wondered how many other deceptions I'd accepted without question over the past year. "Well, don't overdo it. You've been working very hard lately." "I appreciate you saying that." For a moment, her expression softened, and I caught a glimpse of the woman I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. I know I haven't been the most attentive wife lately. Once things settle down with the business, the sentence hung in the air, unfinished. Once things settled down with the business, what? Would she leave Ryan and recommit to our marriage? Would she finally tell me about the pregnancy? Would she find some way to make this all work out without destroying our family? Or was this just another manipulation designed to keep me complacent until she was ready to execute her exit strategy? I understand, I said quietly. We all have to make sacrifices for the things we care about. After dinner, I helped the twins with homework while Sarah retreated to our bedroom with her laptop. Through the partially open door, I could hear her typing, occasionally pausing to make phone calls in the low, urgent tones of someone conducting confidential business. Planning my destruction, probably. Coordinating with her lawyer and her lover to maximize the damage when she finally pulled the trigger. But she was 3 days too late. Monday morning, I dropped the kids off at school and drove straight to Victor's office. The divorce papers were ready, along with emergency motions that would freeze our joint accounts and establish temporary custody arrangements pending a full hearing. This is comprehensive, Victor said, sliding the documents across his desk. We're asking for exclusive use of the family home, primary custody of the children, and immediate spousal support. Plus, we're demanding a full forensic accounting of all business assets and a paternity test for the unborn child. What's her likely response? Shock, followed by anger, followed by attempts at negotiation. Her lawyer will try to paint you as vindictive and controlling. That's why the financial evidence is so important. It shows that she's the one who's been acting deceptively. And if she claims I'm being unreasonable, then we release the photographs and audio recordings. Public disclosure of an affair is always damaging, but it's especially devastating for someone whose business depends on personal reputation. I signed the papers with steady hands. After weeks of investigation and planning, it felt anticlimactic to end my marriage with a few pen strokes and legal stamps. The process server will find her at the gym tomorrow at 10 a.m., Victor continued. Elite fitness, during her regular training session with Ryan. Maximum public impact. Will Ryan be served too? We can't serve him in the divorce proceedings, but we'll be filing a separate alienation of affection lawsuit against him later this week. Illinois still recognizes that tort in cases where the defendant actively pursued a married person. Good. There's one more thing we need to discuss. Your friend Mark. Do you want to include him in any legal action? I thought about that. Mark's betrayal was different from Sarah's and Ryan's. More passive, more cowardly. But in some ways, it hurt more. Sarah had never promised to have my back. Mark had been my best friend for 20 years. Not yet. But I have other plans for Mark. Tuesday morning arrived gray and drizzly. Typical November weather in Chicago. I sat in my office downtown, trying to focus on legitimate work while my phone buzzed with updates from Victor's team. 9:45 a.m. Process server in position at Elite Fitness. 9:58 a.m. Target acquired. Sarah Rodriguez entering gym with male companion. 10:15 a.m. Papers served. Target appeared shocked. Male companion became aggressive but was managed by gym security. 10:22 a.m. Target attempting to call husband. Recommend not answering. My phone rang immediately. Sarah's name on the display, along with a photo from our anniversary last year. Both of us smiling at some expensive restaurant, toasting another year of what I'd thought was marital bliss. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. And again. By the fourth call, I turned off my phone entirely. At noon, Victor called me on my office landline. It's done. She's been served and she knows you know everything. How did she react? About what you'd expect. Tears, denials, threats. Ryan tried to intervene, which was a mistake. Now we have witnesses to their relationship, plus his admission that he knew she was married. What's next? She'll contact you directly, probably within the hour. Then her lawyer will call my office to demand negotiations. We'll respond with our evidence package and settlement demands. And if she refuses to negotiate, then this gets ugly very publicly. But I don't think it will come to that. The financial evidence alone is enough to destroy her in court. I hung up and sat in my office, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. Sarah would be driving home now, probably calling me every few minutes, trying to figure out how much I knew and how much I could prove. But I didn't want to hear her explanations or excuses. I didn't want to listen to her beg for forgiveness or promise that she could change. I'd heard enough lies over the past 10 months to last a lifetime. My phone showed 17 missed calls and 12 unread text messages by the time I finally turned it back on at 5 o'clock. The texts started angry and grew increasingly desperate. How could you humiliate me like this in public? Theo, please call me. We need to talk. The kids deserve better than this. Think about what you're doing. I know you're hurt, but destroying our family won't solve anything. Please. I love you. I've always loved you. This doesn't have to end our marriage. Ryan means nothing to me. It was just physical. You're the one I want to grow old with. I deleted them all without responding. The drive home took longer than usual as I rehearsed what I would say when I finally faced Sarah. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to demand answers to the 1,000 questions that had been burning in my mind for weeks. But a larger part of me was simply done. Done with the lies. Done with the manipulation. Done with being treated like a fool in my own home. Our driveway was empty when I arrived. Sarah's car was gone, though the lights were on inside the house. I found Maria in the kitchen, making dinner for the twins. She called me, Maria said, without looking up from the stove. Asked me to pick up Alex and Jordan from school and stay with them until you got home. Did she say why? She said you two were having marital difficulties and she needed some time to think. Maria's tone was carefully neutral, but I could see the questions in her eyes. The kids don't know anything yet. Good. I want to tell them myself. Theo. Maria turned to face me, her expression serious. What's going on? Sarah seemed really upset. I gave her the basic outline. The affair, the financial deception, the pregnancy of questionable paternity. Maria listened without interrupting, her face growing more shocked with each revelation. My God, she whispered. I can't believe. I mean, Sarah always seems so what? So perfect. Like she had everything figured out. The business, the family, the marriage. I was actually jealous sometimes. Apparently, she did have it figured out. Just not in the way we thought. Maria hugged me fiercely. I'm so sorry, Hermano. What can I do? Just be here for the kids. This is going to be hard on them. Of course. They can stay with me as long as you need. After Maria left, I sat in my home office and tried to process the day's events. It was over. 15 years of marriage ended with a process server in a gym parking lot. No conversation, no final argument, no moment of reckoning where I could look Sarah in the eye and demand to know how she could have done this to our family. Maybe that was better. Maybe there was nothing she could say that would make any difference. My phone rang. An unknown number. Hello? Theo, it's me. Please don't hang up. Sarah's voice was raw, like she'd been crying for hours. I'd heard her cry before, at movies, at our wedding, when the twins were born. This was different. This was the sound of someone whose world had just collapsed. I'm listening. Thank you. Oh God, thank you. I know you must hate me, but please, can we talk? Face to face? I can explain everything. What's to explain? I know about Ryan. I know about the money you've been stealing. I know about the pregnancy. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I have photographs, Sarah. Video. Audio recordings. I know everything. The silence stretched between us. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. How long have you known? Long enough. I never meant for this to happen. It started as friendship and then Save it. I'm not interested in your justifications. The baby is yours, Theo. I know it is. The timing. We'll let DNA testing determine that. You can't seriously want to end our marriage over this? Think about the kids. Think about everything we've built together. I am thinking about the kids. I'm thinking about the fact that their mother is a liar and a thief who is planning to destroy their family anyway. That's not true. I heard the recording, Sarah. I know you've been planning to divorce me. I know you were strategizing about how to maximize your settlement. The only difference is that I'm filing first. Another long silence. When she spoke again, the tears were gone, replaced by something colder. You bastard. You've been spying on me. I've been protecting myself and my children from someone who was robbing us blind. Those were business expenses. Paying your lover $15,000 is not a business expense. Hotel rooms for your affair are not business expenses. You've been committing fraud, and now you're going to pay for it. You'll never get full custody. I'm their mother. You're an adulteress who's been stealing marital assets to fund your affair. Good luck explaining that to a family court judge. The call ended with Sarah screaming obscenities that I'd never heard her use before. I set my phone on my desk and poured myself a drink, feeling oddly calm for the first time in weeks. It was done. The marriage was over, the betrayal was exposed, and Sarah was finally facing consequences for her actions. But this was just the beginning. Wednesday brought a flurry of legal activity. Sarah's attorney called Victor demanding an immediate settlement conference. Ryan's lawyer sent a cease and desist letter claiming harassment. Both were ignored. Instead, Victor filed our alienation of affection lawsuit against Ryan, seeking punitive damages for his role in destroying my marriage. We also submitted our evidence package to the Illinois Department of Revenue, triggering an audit of both Sarah's business and Ryan's LLC. The media is starting to pick up on this, Victor warned during our morning call. Sarah's wellness business had enough of a profile that some of the local lifestyle bloggers are asking questions. Let them ask. I have nothing to hide. Just be prepared. Once this becomes public, it's going to get messy. He was right. By Thursday evening, the first blog post appeared on Chicago Social Scene, a gossip site that covered the North Shore social circuit. Trouble in Paradise. Wellness guru. Sara Rodriguez's marriage implodes amid cheating scandal. The post included enough details to make it clear that someone with inside information was feeding the story. It mentioned the affair, the financial irregularities, and even hinted at questions about the paternity of Sarah's unborn child. Sarah's phone calls became increasingly frantic. She accused me of leaking information to the press, of trying to destroy her reputation out of spite. She was probably right, though I was careful never to confirm or deny my involvement. Friday brought the first real consequences. Elite Fitness announced that Ryan Mitchell's employment had been terminated due to violations of professional conduct standards. Two of Sarah's biggest clients canceled their contracts, citing concerns about her personal brand alignment with their values. The dominoes were falling exactly as I'd planned. But it was Mark's phone call that brought the most satisfaction. Jesus Christ, Theo, what have you done? I'm sorry, who is this? This number isn't in my contacts. Don't play games with me. You know exactly who this is. Oh, Mark, I thought I'd blocked your number. The state licensing board is investigating my business because of some anonymous complaint about fraudulent sales claims. My biggest client just pulled their listing because they heard rumors about me being involved with unethical real estate practices. This is your doing. Is it? That's terrible news. I hope it works out for you. Theo, come on. I know I should have told you sooner about Sarah, but I was trying to protect your family. I was trying to find a way to… To what? To cover for her while she robbed me blind? To help her plan her exit strategy? That's not what happened. Isn't it? You knew for 8 months that my wife was cheating on me, and you said nothing. You let me live a lie while she systematically destroyed our marriage and stole our money. You're as guilty as she is. I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself. You didn't want to deal with the messiness of telling your best friend that his wife was sleeping around. It was easier to pretend you didn't know anything. Theo, please. We've been friends for 20 years. That has to count for something. It did count for something. That's what made your betrayal so much worse. I hung up and blocked his number permanently. Mark could deal with the consequences of his cowardice the same way Sarah and Ryan were dealing with theirs. By the end of November, the damage was comprehensive and irreversible. Sarah's wellness business was effectively destroyed, her client base evaporating as rumors about her affair and financial improprieties spread through the North Shore social network. She'd been forced to move out of our family home into a small apartment in a less desirable neighborhood. Ryan had fled Chicago entirely after his business collapsed under the weight of the IRS audit and civil lawsuits. Word on the North Shore was that he'd moved back to his hometown in Wisconsin, where he was working at a chain gym for a fraction of his former income. Mark's real estate license was suspended pending the outcome of the state investigation. His brokerage had dropped him to avoid association with the scandal, and his reputation in the competitive North Shore market was effectively finished. The divorce proceedings moved forward with brutal efficiency. The financial evidence was so overwhelming that Sarah's attorney recommended accepting our settlement offer rather than fighting it in court. She would get minimal spousal support, no claim to my retirement accounts or the family home, and limited visitation with the children pending the outcome of paternity testing. She wants to see you, Victor reported after one particularly contentious negotiation session. She says she has something important to tell you. I'm not interested. It might be worth hearing her out. If she's ready to confess to something we don't know about, it could strengthen our position. I agreed to meet Sarah at a neutral location, a coffee shop in downtown Evanston, where neither of us was likely to encounter anyone we knew. She was waiting when I arrived, looking haggard and defeated in a way I'd never seen before. "Thank you for coming," she said, as I sat down across from her. "I wasn't sure you would." "You have 5 minutes. The baby is yours." She said it without preamble, staring down at her hands. "I got the paternity test results yesterday. I wanted you to know before the court orders came through." I felt a complex mix of emotions: relief, anger, sadness. Relief that the child was mine. Anger that she'd ever let there be doubt. Sadness that our baby would be born into the wreckage of our destroyed marriage. Why are you telling me this now? Because I want you to know that despite everything else, despite all the mistakes I made, I never stopped loving you. And I never stopped wanting our family to work. You have a funny way of showing it. I know how this looks. I know what you think of me. But Ryan was never supposed to be anything more than physical. It was just an escape from feeling trapped and invisible in my own life. So you blame me for your affair? No, I'm not blaming you for anything. I'm trying to explain. There's nothing to explain. You made choices. You chose to sleep with Ryan. You chose to steal our money to pay for it. You chose to plan our divorce while sitting across from me at dinner every night. Those were all conscious decisions. Tears were streaming down her face now. I was going to end it with Ryan, before you found out. I was going to recommit to our marriage and try to fix things. When? After you'd finished robbing me blind? After you'd gotten your exit strategy in place? I wasn't planning to leave you. The lawyer consultations were just insurance, in case things didn't work out. Insurance? I laughed bitterly. That's what you call planning to destroy our family. Insurance. I know you'll never forgive me. I know this marriage is over. But please, for the sake of our baby, can we find a way to co-parent civilly? Can we at least try to minimize the damage to our children? I looked at her across the small table. This woman who'd shared my bed for 15 years, who'd given birth to my children, who'd built a life with me that I'd thought was permanent and real. She looked like a stranger now, someone I'd never really known at all. "We'll co-parent," I said finally. But don't mistake necessity for forgiveness. You destroyed our family, Sarah. You threw away 15 years of marriage for some trainer who's probably already moved on to his next target. That's not something you recover from. I know. Her voice was barely audible. I know I can't undo what I did. But I want you to know that losing you, losing our family, it's the biggest mistake I'll ever make, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Good, I said, standing up. You should. The final divorce decree was signed in February. I retained full ownership of our family home, primary custody of the twins, and the majority of our marital assets. Sarah received minimal support and supervised visitation pending her completion of a court-ordered counseling program. The baby was born in April, a healthy girl we named Sophia. Despite everything that had happened between Sarah and me, holding my daughter for the first time brought a joy I hadn't expected. She was innocent of her mother's crimes, and she deserved to be loved regardless of the circumstances of her conception. Alex and Jordan adjusted to the divorce better than I'd feared. They were old enough to understand that sometimes adults made mistakes that couldn't be fixed, and young enough to adapt to new living arrangements without too much trauma. Sarah's supervised visitations were awkward at first, but eventually settled into a routine that prioritized the children's needs over our mutual resentment. My professional life flourished in the aftermath of the divorce. The skills I'd learned in investigating Sarah's betrayal, forensic accounting, legal strategy, evidence gathering, proved valuable in my corporate consulting work. I was promoted to senior partner and began specializing in hostile takeover defense, a field that seemed perfectly suited to my new understanding of how people could deceive and betray those closest to them. Dating remained complicated. The story of my divorce had made the rounds in Chicago's professional circles, and potential partners seemed to divide into two camps. Those who saw me as a victim of a manipulative woman, and those who wondered what I'd done to drive my wife to such extreme measures. I preferred being single. It was simpler, cleaner, less vulnerable to betrayal. By summer, the last legal proceedings had concluded. Ryan's attempt to sue me for defamation had been dismissed with prejudice, and he'd been ordered to pay my legal fees. Mark's real estate license had been permanently revoked, effectively ending his career. Sarah's wellness business had never recovered from the scandal, and she'd taken a job managing a small gym in a distant suburb. The house was quiet now, with just me and the 3 children. I'd hired a full-time nanny to help with Sophia while maintaining my work schedule, and the twins had adjusted to their new roles as big siblings and protective guardians of their father's peace of mind. The end. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. So subscribe to my channel and watch the next video.